So, hello and welcome to another little YouTube video. And this one is a bit like the last one, where we are trying to save this system, from the dead. So we were called to this 2 weeks ago now, and it's possibly one of the worst installs that I've seen in my 5 years now, fitting solar. Yeah, so these batteries are Lux Power batteries and they have completely died. The batteries do no longer work, and there's a couple of reasons as to why, which I'll show you. So these are our batteries here, and that have completely died and turned off. Now I'm going to let you pick up on what is the problems with them. So this is up here our battery inverter from Lux Power. Now when we came to find on this, we did speak to Lux Power UK, and it has probably been the best customer service that we've had from, I think, any manufacturer of PV equipment. But it's stuff like this that is being left, or the T&E that is looped, which in itself isn't the end of the world, but it'd be nicer if it was in flex. There's no battery isolator on these cables that come down to the battery. There's no bonding link from the metal casing of here to these metal casings of these batteries. They are meant to obviously be in a rack and mounted in a rack. They're just sat upright on their end. And then obviously there's no bonding straps which go to these earth terminals to bond these packs together. And then we come over to our solar inverter, which is actually going to remain, which is a Solax one. And we have stuff like this. So what they've done is they've looped the live connection out the bottom of the plug for the solar inverter, put the clamp on, which goes across here for our battery inverter. But what this doesn't meet is BS7671 and single insulation on show. So we have plenty of single insulation on show there, probably about 3 inches worth. And then the big crux of the problem, which is what has essentially killed our batteries, is this. So this here is our supply from downstairs. It comes into our isolator. It then comes into our solar inverter, and then another supply here comes out of it across into this isolator and feeds our AC coupled battery inverter. The issue with that is both of these inverters are on one supply. Now, why is that an issue? Solar inverters monitor the grid and they lift the voltage. So the grid is pushing into the house at 240 volts or 230 volts. A solar inverter and a battery inverter will push out a slightly higher voltage, normally around maybe 2 to 4 volts higher than the grid, so that it prioritises in the house using that electricity. It's basically able to push back and say, no, grid, we don't need you. We've got more voltage than you. We're going to prioritise. The problem is that when these are on one supply, is they are pushing at each other constantly, and that is what has killed these batteries. So what we're going to do to fix it, I'm going to show you. This is how we're fixing it. We're getting rid of the batteries and we're putting in a Powerwall. So it's Powerwall 2. So what I have done is I have taken this out of our solar inverter, and all of the batteries are now disconnected. All this Lux Power stuff is going to go. It's going to be sent back to Lux Power and it's going to be recycled. That is a job for tomorrow though. That will then leave our Solax inverter fed on its own AC cable. Jay is actually going to come back tomorrow and replace this piece of flex while I commission the Powerwall, replace this isolator as it now has a hole in the side of it, and trunk this piece of T&E up the wall rather than it just being clipped to the arc drive. But for now, he's also going to have to mark pos and neg with some red and white tape because that's missing as well. But for now, downstairs to the Powerwall. So you now join me down at the intake for the building, where we have ripped out some absolute detritus left by the previous solar installers of a meter box DB, as well as the EV manufacturers or the EV installers. They'd also managed to squeeze a DB inside the meter cabinet. Now, the issue with that is it's a terrible job, and that smart meter had gone faulty. An Octopus wouldn't replace it due to having DBs inside the meter cabinet. There you go. So, what have we done to remedy it? We have obviously pulled out the DBs from the meter cabinet, and we have fished some tails quickly down the cavity to where the back of Jay's head is, and we have installed our gateway there. We have then pulled our EV supply back to the gateway, as well as our PV supply to upstairs back to the gateway, and we're going to install a Powerwall 2. Yes, the 3 is out. We are installing a 3 in the next video, or actually it might be the video after the next video, but we have got a Powerwall 3 coming. Reason we're going with the 2 on this house is it is a little bit cheaper. We don't need the DC inputs that the Powerwall 3 offers, and most importantly, the customer has a G99 for a 3.68 solar inverter and the 5 kilowatt Lux Power inverter upstairs, which means we don't need to go through a G99 again for installing our 5 kilowatt Powerwall 2. So everyone knows how Powerwalls work, but we have the gateway. That is our break from the grid in a power cut, and then we have a Powerwall 2. So we'll get cracked on, we'll get a bit more on, and I'll update you when we get some bits and pieces done. You now join me in the back of the van with our Powerwall 2 and a drum from Doncaster Cables. So Doncaster Cables, as well as making EV Ultra, PV Ultra, they also make something called Tesla Powerwall Connect, and that is it. That'll focus in on the end of there. What that is live neutral earth, a twisted pair comms, and a 1.5 pos and neg for our 12 volts. They're what we need between the gateway and a Powerwall 2. A lot of people may run a 6mm armoured and then a Cat 5 cable or a Cat 6. Doesn't meet Tesla specs. The 12 volt needs to be on a 1.5. So Doncaster Cables Powerwall Connect has, I can do that, look, has everything in. So you can see our live, neutral and our earth, and then our 2 piston pairs at the bottom down here, and then our cat cable or our 1.5 up here for our 12 volt supply, which I believe triggers when the gateway goes off grid. I'm not actually sure, but that is the exact cable that a Powerwall 2 needs. And of course it comes from Doncaster Cable, because Doncaster Cable just seem to make everything these days. Our gateway is now on and wired with our cable that goes off and up to our solar inverter that is upstairs, and our car charger cable which is at the back of the house. These 2 were existing. Jason is currently stripping off the Doncaster Cables Powerwall Connect, which will then go into our Proteus isolator, and then in here we have the Proteus RCBOs, Proteus main switch. The really important thing about Proteus is they are dual poled, and they are also bi-directional to meet Amendment 3. So dual poled for our car charger, and obviously the bi-directional to meet the regs. Proteus were one of the first to do that, and that is why we use them, and we are going forward using nothing but Proteus in our switchgear where we can. Next job, once the Powerwall is on, we also need to get a earth rod from our gateway down, and obviously to an earth rod. The reason we need an earth rod on this job is because the gateway and the Powerwall can take the house off grid in a power cut, or at the push of a button in the customer's app. So we need an earth reference, because what we can't rely on a PME system as we have here is the DNO's earth. So we don't truly go TT, we run TT in parallel to our TNCS If you look in the guidance notes for EESS, which is electrical energy storage systems, our earth rod is actually only a reference to earth, and when our gateway takes us off grid, it is a tied to neutral. But like I say, cup of tea first, and then we'll lift that 120 kg battery onto this bracket. I'd like to say that went on easy, but they never seem to get any lighter. I believe they're 113 kilos from memory. So it's on, it's wired, just the side cover to do where this piece pulls out, and then we are onto the commissioning. And should we do the most satisfying bit? I liked that. That is it. That is my phone. It's now doing the software update, and the Powerwall is all connected. Literally just need to now do the software update and the commissioning and the settings, and then we can sort out the absolute mess that is upstairs and rip all of them batteries out. Yeah, I'll spin you around. I'll show you the finished. So we have our electric meter over here, and then we have our gateway here. We have our solar cable, which is this very far left one, our EV cable, which goes to the charger, and then our Tesla Powerwall Connect, which loops up into our 32 amp Proteus switch, and then our Tesla Powerwall 2, which you can see is just doing its update. And you will see there is a flashing light on there for that, as that does that. In here we have our 80 amp fuse that protects our tails going into the house, our double pulse switch for these breakers. This still needs labelling, however we have our EV charger, our solar PV, and our Powerwall. Again, they are done with Proteus RCBOs. I've already mentioned it, but they are double poled, they are bi-directional, they comply with everything they need to for the renewable stuff inside the gateway. But there we go. Last couple of jobs is just to pull the battery install apart upstairs and get that out of the house, and then this one is ticked off and complete.